Hail cheaters! Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. I'm talking quickly, Brandon, because we've got a quick turnaround between Game Week 32 and Game Week 33. It kicks off on Tuesday. My name's Josh. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, how are you?
Put the time up on the board, Josh. What are we going to do? 30 minutes? Multiply that by 2 by Always Cheating rules. But yeah, I feel like it was a wild weekend of Premier League football, which we'll recap briefly. And then to realize we're doing it all again in basically 48 hours. For me, that kind of feels exciting because I'm coming off of a strong green arrow, my 5th green arrow in a row. I was kind of wondering last week, what do I have to do to get over a hump? And it feels like the last 2 weeks, I'm over it. And I feel like for you want this next game week to start as soon as possible because you're feeling, to quote Hercules, Kevin Sorbo, that is, disappointed.
Yeah, I am feeling. Well, yeah, I mean, it went horribly. It went as bad. I mean, I did this game week 27, 28, 29 gamble, and the gamble was that I could field a full 11 for game week 32 that wouldn't look that bad, that would kind of make sense, and just the way it shook out. I mean, I had a full 11, and it wasn't that bad, but it was just, I had to go 5 at the back the way my team was set up. So all 6 of my, including my goalkeeper, all 6 of my players lost their clean sheets. All of them in the second half. It was just, I know, actually, I guess Gabriel, I lost that one in the first minute. The other ones all came in the second half. It was just an absolute catastrophe because not only did nobody, I mean, I had Salah like everybody else. It's like I had Gabriel, Martinelli, and Salah. Those were my 2 players who did something. Well, great. So did everybody else, right? Every single player I had that had less than universal ownership blanked, and every player that I didn't own returned. And it was catastrophic. And I don't think I've ever had this happen before, but at least not, maybe I haven't between game week 1 and game week 2, but this late in the season, to quadruple my rank is something that I don't know if I've ever experienced before. And so it's kind of like, I sort of feel like I just blew up my season. And of course I didn't because I'm at 12K now, right? So that's fine. But it's, to get up to 3,000 in the world and then lose it all in
Arsenal
in 1
right
week
now,
is
Josh.
Pretty tough.
You're Arsenal because now, the global Arsenal community is going through this right now of we bottled winning the title. It's not done yet, but it's looking pretty likely that Man City will get the title. But they're going to finish in second and be in the Champions League. So that's kind of where you are right now. You bottled the title, such as it was, but you're still going to finish in the top 4 and have a great season. And who knows, maybe they'll give you PFA Player of the Year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the problem is there's just no guarantee that I'm going to bounce back, right? I mean, I could continue dropping, and that's the scary part. And part of the worry now is we had this. I don't even know how to feel about my team because this turnaround is pretty tight. Klopp has already hinted at some rotation ahead. You had all of the key Brighton players play 120 minutes. You had Marcus Rashford play 120 minutes. He at least doesn't play until Thursday. But I mean, are we absolutely certain that? I don't know. I mean, we're probably okay with those guys, but it's just you just ideally don't want your Brighton players to play 120 minutes in a 0-0 draw late on Sunday and lose in heartbreaking fashion, and then go out in a match that they're probably not going to be up for. Let's be honest. It's playing away to Forest.
You can talk about the minutes, and I do think the emotional toll is one thing. I mean, you see teams they can take a devastating loss and turn it into a great performance and use that emotion for good, but this was Brighton's chance at a final at Wembley for their fans against Man City. And I don't know how it goes. Lewis Dunk, after the match, gave, I think, the first reaction of a Brighton player afterward, and he sounded just... And it wasn't one of those, like, I'm the team captain, I'm going to come out here and say this for the fans. Like, Lewis Dunk genuinely sounded like he was about to cry. And I
know I would have preferred a Brighton Man City final just for to me that's just a little more interesting. I think that's like part of the beauty of the FA Cup, right? Is that you get the You get one team that's slightly less favored.
Wigan versus City.
Exactly. And for Man United to play Man City, it's like I'm sure like the advertisers are excited. It sounds great, if you're a casual fan, but it's it's a little bit like Real Madrid, Barcelona at this point, where it's just like, all right, well, they play like 18 times a year. It sort of takes a little bit of the shine off. And so it's not that I'm not excited. It'll still be interesting to see that match, and presumably everyone will be healthy and at full strength. And so it's not, if Man United are lucky that match isn't being played right now, because they're suffering a dip in form, and Man City look like absolute world beaters at the moment. So it should be a pretty interesting match. Is that like after the season ends? It used to be that's when they did it, right?
Yeah,
like the first week of June or something.
I believe that's right, because it will be Man City's penultimate match, assuming they get to the Champions League final. So it shouldn't have any bearing. The only thing that's really going to have bearing on rest and rotation is going to be West Ham still in the Europa Conference League, and City in the Champions League, and the rest is just straight up Premier League stuff. Yeah,
but the only issue is, as we're sort of, again, we want to kind of get into some of this soon, but I think this is a relevant discussion for transfers. So we have these matches this weekend. We have Game Week 33, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. 3-day. Good luck to anybody in the U.S. who loves this stuff, because, oh my God, Brandon, I got a busy week ahead, my friend. I don't know what to do with these afternoon matches, especially Arsenal Man City, or I should say Man City Arsenal, because they're hosting them. But that's a huge match. That's Wednesday afternoon. I am going to try an actual blackout. I'm going to try to not watch this match in real time and not get spoiled. I don't know how that could possibly happen. I'm going to log out of all accounts, stay out of every Discord. That's going to be a tricky one, but I am going to try.
If I can't avoid Succession episode 3 spoiler on Instagram, I'm not sure how you're going to manage Man City Arsenal, but I applaud the effort.
I just saw somebody this afternoon, and she was saying that she's never even watched Succession, and she's already been spoiled on the big season 4 episode 3 spoiler. So it doesn't be correct, but that's gonna be June 3rd, Brandon. So that will be kind of fun, I suppose, because the season ends very late in May. It ends Memorial Weekend here, the Premier League season, and then that FA Cup final will be like in the summer, really. So that'll be a fun way to end a long and complex season with all these matches. So we have Game Week 33 at midweek, and then we have Game Week 34, which will kick off this weekend. And Game Week 34 is a double game week. We have a number of teams that play twice in 34. Brighton, who I just mentioned, just played 120 minutes, and then they play at midweek, and then they've got 2 more matches after that. You have Fulham, Liverpool. They're the kind of maybe the safest of these, but they also have, outside of Mo Salah, some of the highest rotation risk, I would say, of all the clubs. You have Man City. They're fine, easy win. Rested players early, couldn't have gone better for them. Playing Sheffield on Saturday, and then
Sheffield United for all the people keeping score at home.
That's true. Sheffield United, slayers of
Wrexham.
of Wrexham. Yeah, exactly. God, can you imagine if Wrexham had been in that FA Cup semifinal
and then ended up blowing? They had to put all their eggs in that basket.
Yeah, exactly.
I've just been hoovering up all that social media content from the Wrexham victory.
I have been too. There's a part of my brain that's like a little snarky, and I'm just like, But to me, it's just the larger, more dominant part of my brain is just really. I just think it's fun, and it's and I think as an American, I'm always going to be a little bit of a booster for the sport, right? Because I love it so much, and I don't want more Americans to get into it. So any entry point there is. I feel the same way about Ted Lasso, right? It's like. Do I think that Ted Lasso is as good now as it was season 1? No, I don't. But am I glad it's still out there, kind of minting fresh Premier League fans? Absolutely. Yes, I am. So, but that's just, where am I going with this? Oh, right. So we have Man United who just played a difficult match, but did get through. So maybe they get a little boost from that. And then West Ham, who have been playing quite well suddenly, Brandon. The Hammers are suddenly in form. Moyes in, Brandon.
Kurt Zuma has been like a secretly good pick for me. I've had him for 4 weeks now, and he's gotten, I think, 4 clean sheets in 5 matches. That includes a double in 29, but unbelievable. I was watching that Bournemouth match today, and Kurt Zouma is one of the slowest people I can imagine ever on a Premier League pitch. It was wild watching him. I'm like, are both of his hamstrings being, like sprung to pieces as I'm watching? No, he just runs that way.
So what is your rank up to now with this new green arrow?
Oh my God, I'm up to 24,172. So I'm into the top 25K.
Wow, that's great.
It's
great.
fantastic, and both of us coming into this game week without a free hit. I think we showed both sides of that coin, and for me, where everything broke the wrong way for you, it broke the right way for me. I knew I was going to meet you for dinner Friday night after work. And as your Gabriel Martinelli goal went in, I was like, okay, we're going to get good Josh tonight. And then I'm sitting there with my Saka and Odegaard. And then within 5 minutes, I've got a Saka goal, 3 bonus, and Odegaard goal. And I'm like, then I stopped thinking about whether I'm going to get good Josh or bad Josh. I'm just thinking, we're going to get good Brandon tonight.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I was fine. To be fair, I'm not, long-time listeners know how much I would have, that old version of me would have come on here and ranted for a long, long time about my terrible, terrible luck. And it just was, I'm actually just mad at myself for hitting in 28. That was really the original sin mistake that I made. And I don't know. I had a plan and it didn't work out. Haaland getting injured for 1 week was kind of hurt me a little bit. That threw me off. For one, I kind of lost one extra transfer. That would have really that would have been helpful. I probably would have brought in Saka just as a defensive move this week. Just like little things like that. I didn't quite feel the full strength side this week, and it's tricky with the double in 34 because I was trying to figure everything out. I ended up going with Cody Gakpo over Saka because I wanted to be ready for 34. And I hate the way these double game weeks just turn your brain to, they just warp your thinking so much. And sure, you can ignore the doubles, but often it works, right? Often targeting them does work. And so we'll see how it works out. But, to get 1 from him versus 13 from Saka was just a real killer. And, and so now I think it's really tricky. We're going to talk in a second here about what we should do with Arsenal assets, and Game Week 33 is just going to be really the chief focus of this week's podcast because it kicks off on Tuesday, and I don't really want to think too far ahead about Game Week 34 until these matches have been played, especially because it's very tricky to think about Game Week 34 until we kind of see what these squads look like in 33, right? A lot of the transfer decisions I may make with even a squad like Man City may come down to who plays at midweek, right? Like what kind of minutes I'm going to be expecting from players based on what they did in Game Week 33. So in our Patreon pod on Thursday, we'll record more of a deep dive into 34 and really focus on that. So just sort of a little bit of preamble there. But Brendan, because this is a rare week where we actually have a game week end on a Sunday, do you want to read off the top 10 in the Always Cheating Super League?
Yes, exactly. The superest of leagues in 10th place, we've got Mort Martinson 9th. It's Guillaume Almeida, Mark Jordan in 8th, Charlie Boyle in 7th. Yusuf Jafar in 6th place. In 5th, we got Tom Appadale, Mark Bleakley in 4th, Sarah Edge dropping a little bit here. We've been following Sarah's journey through the season, having a great one. And we've got Halken Vingelsgaard moving up to 2nd, and Sayakur Tai we've seen in first place and is again there after Game Week 32. If you want to join the Super League, just go to alwayscheating.com and hit the league tab. And we've got some Patreon signups this week. Of course, if you love what Josh and I do every week and you want to say thanks and get more FPL content in return, maybe you've had a great season and you want to, flip some change in the bucket, or you're trying to chase down that mini league rival here in the home stretch and you want a little bit more content and advice in return. We've got the Discord chat, the extra ad-free podcast every Thursday night. Do give us a follow at patreon.com/alwayscheating. Lots of different tiers to choose from. Josh, please say thank you to our new Patreon supporters.
I will. Yeah, we put out the call last week for if the season's podcast has been helpful for you this season, or if you just enjoyed it as we come down to the real proper stretch run here, just a handful of weeks left of the season, support the pod and say thanks. And so some people did heed that call. Gavin O'Donnell, Andrew Rupert, Brian Hantman, Lolly, Arthur DeBorman, and Ming Ting Little all became Patreon supporters this week. A couple of them are t-shirt level patrons, Brandon. So let's go in there and get them some shirts. Get those shirts out there.
Get that always cheating t-shirt cannon fired up and just start shooting them out my apartment window.
I know. It's fun to see them out there. Well, anyway, okay. So I'm all over the place right now, Brent. I think I'm still processing what happened to me this week. But once again, patreon.com/alwaysteens, where you can go to support the podcast, talk with us. And I will say, normally I completely withdraw, Brent, after a bad game week, but I did accept my loss. I was, 15 points behind everybody else in terms of the always cheating our knockout league
last cheater standing.
So I have joined Elysium, where all of the cheaters who lose in last cheater standing go. So that's what happened to me. It was a four player eliminate. I had no chance. I knew it even going into Sunday. But congrats to everyone who's still in there, including you. So maybe you can take it home for the cheaters.
I'm gonna live forever.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's take a quick break, Brandon. We'll get back and talk about Game Week 33. All right, Brandon, we're back. Game Week 33 kicks off. I'm just going to run through the schedule a little bit for a second for 33. You have 3 matches on Tuesday: Wolves Palace, Villa Fulham, Leeds Leicester. Ooh, just a trio of stinkers, isn't it? Maybe Villa Fulham could be a fun one. Now that Fulham have 2 on the bounce. I don't know. And then you have Forest, Brighton. I'm on Wednesday now. Forest, Brighton, Chelsea, Brentford. I don't know. Would Brentford win that one?
I'm betting on Tony for sure.
Betting on Tony to score.
I set my bus team with Tony on the bench. And I'm like, what am I doing? Chelsea are a basket case. So who knows?
Chelsea, Brentford, West Ham, Liverpool. Liverpool have struggled on the road. Of course, they didn't in Game Week 31. Had a great performance in that one. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we've got the big one. Man City, Arsenal is the final match on Wednesday. And on Thursday, 3 more matches, very spread out. This midweek run of fixtures. You have Everton, Newcastle, Southampton, Bournemouth, and Spurs hosting Man United. I was put on the Spurs game this morning, and I was like wrapping. This game's run. It was 9 a.m. right, and so I'm up, and I finished breakfast and poured myself a cup of coffee, and I sit down in the living room at what I think was 9:08, right? So I sit down at 9:08. The match has been on for 8 minutes. Turn on the TV. It is a 3-0 Newcastle. I could not believe it. And my wife sat down next to me. She's like, She's like, has this ever happened before? It was such a crazy start to that game. And then we shortly thereafter saw 2 more goals go in that first half. And I mean, it was an absolutely destructive match. That was absolutely insane.
Not a great weekend for North London teams in the first 10 minutes. Arsenal conceded 2 in the first 15 minutes or so. If you were in my apartment, I tuned in for kickoff of Spurs Newcastle. If you were in my apartment, you would have thought I was watching an episode of Seinfeld or something like that. I was just laughing hysterically and slapping my knee. It was
belly chuckles.
As a neutral, maybe Spurs supporters were laughing maniacally like they were the Joker too. I don't know, but it was just unbelievable. And it was one of those ones that was really hard to parse. And you could tell the commentary was trying to parse it as well. Like, who's to blame here? And Spurs were playing a new system with a back 4 instead of a back 5. But Sepp Stafford Blower, he writes for Tifo, he was saying, there is no system that you can blame for this. Like, at the end of the day, you kind of do have to think, what consequences are there for this club who has decided just not to invest in a manager? Did they realize how close they were to European football and just decided to beg off that? And they're their bank balance is going to be suffering all summer.
Yeah, it's just I mean, Lloris got pulled at halftime, and they said something like he's injured, and then I think the commentary was like, "That's the company line anyway," or something like that. Pretty rough. I can't imagine anyone went for Lloris in a free hit, but perhaps they did. I don't know. I highly doubt it away to Newcastle, but yeah, just a really. Just a wild one. Of course, Kane scored again, like he always does. And
that one I missed. Both of us on double Newcastle defense. That was a tough pill to swallow. The
it was
meaningless
coming.
goal.
That was him. Yeah, the meaningless goal, and then Solanke blanking were the third things I knew would happen. It was like Brendan Rodgers. The three people I knew would betray me were all written down in my little cards.
I didn't predict any of those things. The only thing I predicted this weekend was that Pablo Fornals would score a scorpion kick, and I should have actually bet money because it came to pass. But I knew it was going to happen
somehow. Yeah, it was written in the stars. And yeah, Leicester City, another team that hasn't. Have they appointed a new manager?
Chris Wilder.
Dean Smith. That's right.
Not Chris Wilder.
Dean Smith.
They are interchangeable in my mind.
I like it. I'm like Dean Smith. I'm just like, it's just like the ultimate interim. Like, it's just the way they just sack these guys, like with Lampard coming in. Like, there's no one thinks that he's the. Yeah, they're openly talking about who they're going to bring in, right? It's like there's not even like a chance that it's Lampard. They're like, oh yeah, probably Nagelsmann. There's just no so unusual. So anyway, all right, that's enough off the FPL commentary. Question one, Brandon. We've got 5 questions here. It's a quick turnaround, so we're just going to try to do this nice and efficiently. Question one is, what are our transfer decisions for Game Week 33? What are you currently thinking for 33? How's your team look right now?
Well, my team is fine. I'm planning to captain Holland at home to Arsenal. I predict what everybody else is going to predict, that City are going to score 2 or 3 goals at least against Arsenal. Which brings me to my question mark, which is Arsenal. So I'm looking at bench boosting in Game Week 34, and I'd like to bring in a few more doublers. So I have 2 free transfers in which to maximize. I currently have 7 doublers. So it's not like I can go buck wild until I start taking hits. But with Saka and Odegaard, Arsenal's fixtures, I think we've got a question coming up about Arsenal. Maybe I could just cover some of that here. Arsenal's fixtures coming up are just like not terribly enticing, especially given their form. It's City away, Chelsea at home, which you could, you favor Arsenal there. Yeah. Then it's Newcastle and Brighton after that. I just feel like that's where I can make sacrifices and bring in Rashford or Grealish, or who I really wanted to bring in was Solly March. Watching him sky that penalty was kind of stung. I think actually what would suit my team better is to bring in Steele, the Brighton goalkeeper, who had a knock in Game Week 31, but was on the bench. And we knew he wouldn't start over Sanchez because Sanchez is the cup keeper for Brighton all season. But Steele being on the bench at Wembley puts us in a good frame of mind that he'll start in Game Week 33. So Steele coming in for Ward, I think, is the first move I would make. And then who do I bring in for Martin Odegaard? Is the next. So these are the questions I'm thinking about, and they all revolve around Game Week 34. So I'm thinking of just rolling in 33, and I would start, Watkins, Toney, and Holland across the front, bench Odegaard, and play Saka. Saka is just being on pens and for all intents and purposes the best attacking player. I mean, I don't know, Martinelli, etc.
Yeah.
And just, God help me, double Newcastle defense again. Botman and Trippier against Everton. This is the way. So I'm thinking of rolling and then just kind of like getting as close to the 34 deadline as I can to make some better decisions for my bench boost there. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah. A roll is on the table for me for sure. I think the kind of a similar spot for you. You've got a lot of players in away matches, which I don't love the looks of. But, I looked at my team this week and I had 10 of my 11 players were at home. That didn't work out at all either. So what do I know? I'm with you. I'm starting Martinelli. away to Man City. I think that I don't know. I just feel like there's a chance that they could. I mean, certainly Man City have conceded plenty of goals this season.
No doubt.
Reason why they couldn't,
I think
concede.
Arsenal are good for a goal here for sure.
Yeah, exactly. The one I have that I'm, again, this is where the free hit is not having one is trouble. Is I'm settled with Cody Gakpo, who I kind of immediately want to get rid of, right? I mean, even though he doubles in 34, I'm like, do I just need to burn points to drop him? He's so worthless, and so I'm just really feeling negative about having this waste of a lineup spot, dedicated to him right now. So but the problem I have, and this actually, I'm kind of jumping ahead here because I kind of have to, but this question too, which is Rashford played a full 120 minutes in the FA Cup semifinal. Does that dissuade you, or should it dissuade you from getting him for game week 33? Any concern there? It's
less the minutes he played at Wembley. It's more the form that Manchester United are in. I don't remember who said this, but there was somebody writing about how Martinez and the central defense being out just completely disrupts Manchester United's ability to play out from the back. A lot of talk around David De Gea not being able to do this, so they rely on Martinez to do this instead of De Gea, and Martinez is out for the season, and this is really stymieing. Forgive me, the attack.
Yeah.
So it's just like, do I want Rashford anyway? Let's see what the fixtures for Manchester United. They've got Spurs away this coming week. Cool. Their defense is terrible. Yep. Villa, Brighton, West Ham, Wolves. The run-in is quite appealing, and the double in 34. It's sort of like there are all these cases against Manchester United. Marcus Rashford is just a pure FPL pick, I think, because of his expected goal involvement in that team. And it's not like Manchester United are just not going to score goals for the rest of the season. For that reason alone, I still find him to be appealing. And if you're, in your situation, Josh, bemoaning Cody Gakpo, just move Gakpo to Rashford, because there's no rotation threat with Rashford.
No, it's just the problem is then I'm sort of...
It's a bit lateral.
That's one more... It's a bit lateral. Well, I was planning to move... it's just tricky. I just don't really want to drop a doubler, right? If I can get away with it. And so then I kind of look at my squad and I'm trying to figure out who else could move. A more complicated move that I would at least consider would be a double move where I moved Gabriel and McAllister, and I turn Gabriel into Estepanian, and I turn McAllister into Rashford. And so the reason I would make those moves is because it would allow me to have a Brighton, I guess I'd have double Brighton defense in that case. But then I would also, I'm not hugely enthusiastic about McAllister as an FPL asset anyway. And so that would be one kind of get around there a little bit. And so I would be dropping a doubler, but it wouldn't be a Liverpool doubler, which I'd feel a little bit better about. So that's another possibility that I'm kicking around, that I'm throwing into the mixer, Brandon. One more. I'm already, my season's, the ship has already capsized. So what's another -4? It's a gambler's dilemma.
Talk to me about this McAllister hate.
There's no hate. It's just part of it. Part of it is that when Veltman went out with the hamstring injury, that did shake things up a little bit in the Brighton team, right? They brought in Julio and Enciso, and with Enciso in, it seemed to move McAllister. Right. McAllister drops deeper, and so I guess the concern would be that I sort of have a Casemiro type player now for these doubles, which wouldn't be hugely enthusiastic about. So that is one thing I'm also kicking around.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility. The appeal of that move is I'd still be able to do a five across the middle if I did that. Let me actually make sure I have the money to do that before I kick around this before I embrace this insanity, Brandon. Yeah. Can this even be done? Yeah. Let's see. Estepanian's 4.8. No, I can't even do it. So
It's a good idea,
I can't
though.
do it. It's a cool idea.
Join me with
fun.
Lewis Dunk. Can you afford
Dunk.
him?
Well, you know who I could bring in? No, I can't do that either. So let's see. There's no. Oh no, I mean I could bring. I can bring in any of these players, but the problem is I have 3 Brightons, so to do it I have to move another Brighton asset to make it work. So we'll see what I end up doing. I don't really know yet. Maybe I bring in Jack Grealish for Gakpo. That'd be another move I'd consider. Just going right for Grealish,
blockbuster
right off the bat. Yeah. Not feeling terrible about that as an idea either. I don't really love. I mean, I guess this is. Again, it's hard to talk about any of these questions without sort of thinking about the holistic picture, right? Yeah. At least holistic in terms of game weeks 33 and 34. But I'm certainly, I don't think it is unreasonable to think about Man City this early with your transfers. I mean, maybe the defenders I'd feel less enthusiastic about, but I think it's completely fine to go ahead and bring in Jack Grealish in 33 if you were thinking about him for 34. I mean, Arsenal's defense is shambles right now, right? Rob Holding cannot. He just, I don't know. I'm just like not. I don't know when they'll keep another clean sheet. To be quite honest, I mean it's Man City away, Chelsea at home, Newcastle away. Concede. All 3 of those matches they're gonna concede. Brighton at home 36. I'm not feeling great about that one either. Right. So game week 37 away to Forest is the next time I'd feel even kind of good, but Forest have scored in like basically every home match they've played so far this season. So game week 38, home to Wolves, Brandon. That's the next time I'd really want to start Gabriel in one of these matches. So I certainly think it'd be fine to bring in Grealish this early.
I'm with you, and the prognosis on Saliba is still a giant question mark. Nobody's biting on when he's. I think the last word from Arteta was like he's kind of the same as he's been. So we're officially on this podcast. We're changing Rob Holding's name to Rob Can't Get a Grip. Trying to think of what the opposite of Holding is.
Wow, Get a Grip, a great Aerosmith album, Brandon, just turned into a great.
Holding is to blame for a lot, but certainly not the first goal that Southampton scored. I don't know if he was necessarily at fault for any of those Southampton goals, but it is a barometer of the quality of the Arsenal defense at this point.
Yeah. All right, so I'm still a little on the fence. I think the question is how many hits are reasonable, and this is a question that we'll get a lot from Patreon supporters over the next couple of days, and on the Slack in the Discord. Excuse me, we're not on Slack anymore. We're on the Discord now.
No free ads, Slack.
Yeah, exactly. And on Twitter. What a chaotic weekend for Twitter, though. It's funny. I made a little joke last week in last week's pod about Twitter. It's gotten crazier. Part of me is like, okay, like, does anyone have any interest outside of actually talking in like a meta way about Twitter? But it's been so crazy that I can't blame people for being obsessed with the insanity around. But anyway, the question, is often how many hits are justified, and I think that if you were the question is, or the sort of the thought process, I think, is if you were planning to take a hit in 34 anyway, and a hit will help you in 33, and it helps for you for both game weeks, it is very reasonable to move that hit up and just do it a game week early. And so I think that is something that should be considered. It's just moving the hit up 1 week.
Yeah, I agree with that logic. Sometimes you think I'm taking a hit because I really want this guy for this week, and yeah, the best strategy for hits is you're bringing in an asset that you're going to sort of amortize over 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm in agreement there.
I guess if you were looking through like a longer lens, you could even consider sort of not prioritizing 34. Thinking about it like an even later game week. That would be something you could also consider, like with like Newcastle, for example. They don't double in 34, but they do double in 36, right? So they have they play, but it's Everton away and Southampton at home in 34. So Southampton at home in 34, given the form that Newcastle are in right now, is very appealing. So if there was if your team got significantly better, for example, by bringing Isak in early, that's another example, I think, of a move where even on a hit, I think it makes sense, because if you're planning to bring him in later anyway, that might just help you out a little bit, because most people aren't going to have unless they're free hitting in 34 or later on, are going to have every single player they want from all these teams that double, right? Brighton have 3 double game weeks left this season. Man City have 2. Man United have 2. But Newcastle have 1, but it's a really good one. And so, it's really, it's going to be very interesting trying to figure out how to kind of mix and match down the stretch here. And maybe, West Ham, I guess you can, in 34, you're just going to have to go ahead and start your boy again, right, Brandon? He's
Zuma?
He's officially Brandon's boy, right? All is forgiven. All the drama.
Zuma's official.
What drama, right?
Yeah, well, exactly what drama. We won't even talk about it. He's my guy. He's always been my guy, Josh.
He's always been your boy. Yeah.
Quit emailing me, local pet hospital. I love my cat. And Zuma, we'll talk after the season is over. I'm not done with you yet. But what was I was going to say something interesting, and then now I've thought. Oh, I was going to talk about.
I'm sure it was great.
Isak. You mentioned Isak there, and I mentioned how I thought that Newcastle Spurs match was so funny.
Yeah.
The funniest part was Callum Wilson actually scoring that goal, and he didn't know what to do. Well, he did. It was like somebody taking a picture, and you don't know what to do with your hands, and he was like, I'm not even starting for this team anymore, even though I'm a really good striker, says Callum Wilson. B, that was a very easy goal to score. C, is like this. I don't want to contribute to pain in the world, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like I wonder what's up with Wilson in the next couple of game weeks if we see a little bit more of him.
Guy. Doesn't he seem like a nice guy? I don't know. Maybe
totally nice
I'm
guy.
Sure, like every single person in the world, someone's got a horrible story about him from 19 years ago or something. But he does seem like a nice guy. I thought Isak had a fun celebration too, because he of course that was still the first half of the match. You're allowed to do anything you want, that early in the game, and he sort of wheeled away, did like kind of the Michael Jordan shrug.
Oh
right?
yeah, somebody compared it to. There's a Twitter account called "I think you should leave FC," and it's just "I think you should leave" memes, and they posted the one of Tim Robinson doing the like sloppy steaks, walking into the restaurant like with his hands out like that. So Isak was ordering up some sloppy steaks.
So question. Okay, so we talked about Rashford. We think it's ultimately probably fine to bring him in because these matches are key, right? I mean, the Champions League is not a done deal at all for Man United. And even though he was nursing an injury, I mean, clearly he's fine, right? He wouldn't have played. Was it the second half, or did he play the full 90 in the?
He and Shaw came in at
halftime, right?
Yeah. Yes,
they did. I think they did. They did come in at halftime. Yeah. Sorry, I made that. I knew that. I made that a complicated. Yeah. So they came in at halftime in that match.
I thought that was a gotcha question, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. One of my classic gotchas. So he hasn't played that many minutes, and Bruno went off. Bruno tried to do the the Ronaldo in the Europa League final.
And coach the team from the sideline, be involved from the sideline.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so if we feel fine about him, I think Matoma, March, McAllister. It wouldn't shock me if we saw a little bit of. I mean, Brighton do have a little bit of squad depth right now, but also they're kind of in a similar spot to Man United, where they still have Europe to consider. Let me look right now. Let me see where they are here. They're in 8th, so it's not. But they're not that far. I mean, they have a bunch of games in hand, right? So they have. They're in 8th place, but they have Liverpool a point ahead of them. They have 2 games in hand on them. They have Aston Villa, who are 2 points ahead of them. They have 3 games in hand on them. So pretty significant. Same thing with Spurs. Spurs are 4 points ahead, but they have 3 games in hand on them as well. So it is probably, I would say it's probably out of getting to the Champions League is probably out of the running for them. But I think that if they finish in 5th place and got into Europe, I think that would be massive for that club. I mean, right? I mean, for Brighton to be there would be huge.
It would be an opportunity for them to hold on to De Zerbi first and foremost, because De Zerbi is set up to manage in Europe for sure. So I think a lot kind of depends on if they want to keep this squad and the management together and to continue to grow the club. Otherwise, they're going to get picked apart over the summer.
Yeah, I agree. So let's and I'm rooting for them. I think they're really fun. They're one of the fun teams to watch this year for sure. So Arsenal assets. We did talk about this a little bit. I guess if you had, I mean, I guess I already gave away my hand a little bit when it came to Arsenal defenders. I would do everything in my power not to start an Arsenal defender this week. If you had double Arsenal midfield, which I guess you do, right?
Yep.
Is it? Are you starting? Well, I guess you're a little. It kind of depends on what your transfers are, but would you be okay starting both Arsenal midfielders, starting Odegaard and Saka?
Yeah, I guess I'd be okay with that. I'd be fine with it. Right now, I have Odegaard first on my bench and Saka starting, and that's in favor of double Newcastle defense. So it's a bit of like, do you want to like grit your teeth through an away clean sheet shout for Newcastle, or just root for Arsenal to do what they've been doing all season and mount really cogent attacks? So I could definitely see myself end up before the deadline with Odegaard starting over Botman. I don't know. What would you do in my situation?
I'd start Odegaard over Botman too. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just Everton have a lot to play for still. I think that even though they haven't played well at all, really probably should have scored a goal in that Palace match. But
Calvert-Lewin back.
Calvert-Lewin's back. He missed a huge chance. Would have been really great for my overall rank if he had scored that. But whatever. So I don't think that. Also, Trippier, I'm out, man.
Wow.
Trippy out. That's where I am, Brandon.
Tell me why. What's going on?
How do they score 6 goals and he gets 2 points? What happened to they are clearly not running the attack through him the way they were the first half of the season. Can't argue with the results, but from a fantasy perspective, it's first of all, this means nothing because there's literally looking ahead here. There's absolutely no chance he does anything but start up to game week 38. They play away in Chelsea in 38. It's like the next time I would maybe consider not having Trippier would be for that.
His points results have been disappointing since game week 22. 2-2, 1-1, 5-2, 12.
Yeah.
2-2, 1-2. It's tough, but you mentioned the doubles that Newcastle have. Their single fixture in 34, home Southampton's. No way I'm dropping him.
Exactly.
But the double up doesn't feel awesome.
So, okay, so I would start the double Arsenal in that case. I think Saka's plays 90 minutes every match. He's he's the easiest.
I think if you've got Saka, you definitely start him. Like that's just like easy question to answer. Just start him.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'd start him over someone like McAllister as well, or Solly March for that matter, if I were debating. And I know that Solly March might be the more controversial one because they do play Forest away, but I would just bank on Saka finding a way to get some kind of attacker return in that Man City match. I think that Forest match could be it comes very soon after that heartbreaking FA Cup semi. A little worried about what kind of Brighton we see in that one.
And it's not like Brighton haven't slipped on banana skins this season. You remember that like snatch and grab from Fulham in a 1-0 match. They are not flawless, as good as they've been. So I think it's an interesting point you make of like, don't get sucked into this idea that Brighton are undroppable. Brighton become undroppable after game week 33 because of all the doubles that we mentioned. And like, if you don't have a Brighton triple up come game week 34, you're doing something wrong, I would suggest.
Ooh, bold words. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'll get heat for that one.
You just pulled down the pants of the FPL community who don't have three. So All right, we got 2 more questions to go here. First one is captain picks for game week 33. Do you have any? Is there any debate here, or do we just captain Erling Haaland in every game when there's not a double?
Hey, listen, this is not like a fun debate to have. I think it pretty much is Haaland straight up. I mean, I'm talking about my boy, Kurt Zuma. He is last on my bench for a reason. I do think Liverpool are going to score a few goals on a leggy West Ham. Pablo Fornals is, he can't score scorpion kicks every week.
No.
Not every week.
No.
So I think Salah is an outside chance. Jota is a name we have not mentioned. He was amazing this weekend.
Yeah, I know. It's messy up front right now for Liverpool. Just a real mess.
Yeah.
So I think, God, pray for anybody that has Cody Gakpo, Brandon. I don't know anybody out there listening who might. It's me. Real mess up front.
Fulham,
and then of course,
I'm sorry. Just Watkins is hosting Fulham. I don't know if you were just going to mention this. You can say you were and take credit for it. That's fine. Miraculous blank for Watkins against Brentford, but we know the G-Tech is tough. But Villa back at home, I don't know. You're not going to captain Watkins in a game week in which Haaland is playing at the Etihad.
No, I'm not going to. I am going to be captaining Erling Haaland, and I guess I'll probably vice captain Watkins. The Watkins is probably a good vice captain pick this week. I think I like that one. Looking through my squad, you could maybe make a case for Matoma as vice captain, but no, I'm going to go
Salah.
I'm going to go. Salah's fine too. West Ham have defended well, and Liverpool are unpredictable in away matches. So, but he has been scoring.
I see a fire in Liverpool right now. A fire in their tummies.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little bit like that season a couple years ago where they kind of they were just sort of muddling through, right?
Left
and then suddenly they exactly left it very late. So I don't actually know if they can crack the Champions League at this point.
Yeah, it's near impossible for them at this point, but we'll give it a go.
Yeah, exactly. 9 back with 1 game in hand. They don't even have a game in hand on Man United. They don't have a game in hand in any. The only Man City and Arsenal are 20 points ahead, so that's out of the question. Then it's Newcastle, and Newcastle are almost definitely going to make the Champions League, by the way, which is kind of. Maybe I don't want to jinx them, but you have Spurs who are the closest team, and that ain't happening. Spurs are not. I think Spurs are going to struggle to get into Europe, honestly, given the games at hand, some of the other teams behind them. Anyway, so it's Haaland, nice and easy, and keeping an eye on Game Week 34. Who are some transfer targets to consider? And I wrote here key players under the radar options. I feel like we've talked about a lot of the key players already. You talked about Brighton assets. We talked about Man United. I would like to see what we get a sense of what I might want to do with Man United assets after we see how they look on Thursday. Right, because it's sort of they should win that match, given where Spurs are right now. Spurs are kind of on the beach already, and I think that Man United aren't. They have a lot to play for still. So I think that but if it's another match where they struggle to score or they concede a couple of goals, I think that's going to be cause for a little bit of concern, and certainly may dissuade me from going double or triple on Man United for their upcoming. Double. I don't know that triple was really on the table at this point. No. But anyway, so, but who are some players that are a little under the radar, right? Like, are there Fulham, not hugely appealing. Brighton, we've talked a fair amount about.
Just on Fulham, I do think that Game Week 32 was the week in which Andreas Pereira made his triumphant return to FPL. People had written him off, and fair enough, Fulham's form tapered a bit, and Andreas Pereira made it into a lot of free hit squads because he's dropped in price to 4.3, incredibly affordable. And Marco Silva and Fulham are playing this false 9 formation now, and Pereira doesn't necessarily play in the false 9, but he is kind of like it's more amoeba-like up there with Bobby Decadorva-Reid or James from the Leeds loan player. I can't even think of his Dan James. And Pereira's just like ever present around the 6-yard box. And if you need to make some cash somewhere, if you're eyeing up, maybe you need extra money so you can afford Trent for Game Week 34, something along those lines. Andreas Pereira, he has the double. It is the worst imaginable double fixture in 34 with City and Liverpool. But there you have it. I think he's an interesting one.
Yeah, I think he's an interesting one too. I guess the other one that you talked about already is Jota, and given his current form, I think that he's a player that. Why? I mean, the thing is, like, okay, maybe he doesn't start the next 3 matches, right? At some point over the next 3, you're going to get a Darwin start in there, but that's fine. I mean, Jota, we saw last season, is a player who's very capable of coming in off the bench and scoring, and I would expect him to start 2 of the next 3 matches, certainly, especially with Firmino likely out. So that's sort of one more competitor. Then you're basically talking about 3 players for 2 slots, and that should serve him fine. It's not that I think Gakpo is just completely done, but it was just a little disappointing to see him go off in the 59th minute, obviously. And but I think that if I were starting over again and sort of keeping an eye on 34. I probably would have, I don't know. I don't know if I would have considered Jota more strong necessarily, but I might have held off on making a decision about what I want to do with my Liverpool players. Right. But, c'est la vie. So, I think that the other, West Ham, I don't feel as enthusiastic about. I mean, the thing about Man City and Man United, and the reason I think that they're worth hits is because you actually get 2 doubles out of them, right? You get this Game Week 34 double where Man City play away to Fulham and home to West Ham. Very good double. Man United play home to Villa, away to Brighton. Not as good, but still fine. There's a home match in there. And then in 37, Man City will play Chelsea and Brighton. And Man United will play Bournemouth and Chelsea. So
Chelsea just getting taken over the knee
Chelsea, all over
these
the place.
double game weeks.
Yeah. Exactly. So in both cases, you have, especially with Man City, though, I think I think going for Grealish makes a lot of sense. Hitting in Grealish, I think, makes some sense as well. He's really in the best form he's ever been in at the club, and just considering that Man City have a bunch of home matches coming up and a bunch of doubles, I think it makes sense. Kevin De Bruyne, I'm not sure if I could get there. I don't know if I could afford it. I'm not sure I would necessarily advocate for it anyway. You're not going to captain him for any of these matches, and it's going to require you to drop a lot of other players to get there. So I don't know. I'm not sure I see the return there.
I agree. Yeah, it doesn't feel worth it ultimately. I think you can get some of those attacking points with a player like Grealish. I mean, Mahrez was the star of the Sheffield United match. He took the penalty over Haaland. I took that to be Haaland has got his eyes set on Champions League and Premier League goal scoring records this season. That was an opportunity for him to, you get the sense that Haaland understands the stage that he's on, and he doesn't want to walk that Cristiano Ronaldo path. I mean, maybe he'll get there eventually where it just becomes like an insane megalomaniac. But it seems like if he has an opportunity to not ding, the record books and hand the ball to a teammate, he's going to do it. It's really awesome to see.
Yeah.
But Mahrez has just become the master of doing all this cool stuff, not in fantasy, but in always elsewhere. So that's why it just does come back to Grealish.
It is crazy that he got a hat trick in the FA Cup semifinals, and I wouldn't even dream of having him in my fantasy.
You're like,
team.
Sure, whatever. Yeah, tree falls in the woods.
Basically, I know. I mean, I have long held that Mahrez is a player best left avoided, at least when he plays, at least since he's joined Man City, and that is an approach that I will occasionally miss out on a massive return, but in general, avoiding Mahrez has been the right move for me. I mean, even just looking back, he has 1 assist going back to game week 23. Right. It's I wouldn't, at the very least, know what you're going in with Mahrez. Like know that you very well might get totally, utterly screwed by him. I think he probably starts in the Arsenal match, but I don't know. He just gives me the heebie-jeebies fantasy wise, Brandon.
He's the FPL boogeyman.
He is. Let's do one more player here. I think, looking at Man United, I mean, it's outside. Well, what do you think about Bruno? What does he? And I know he's not necessarily under the radar, but he's not going to be highly owned in 34.
He's
I don't think. I mean, what do you?
He's exactly like Kevin De Bruyne in a fantasy vein at the moment for me. Great pick, great player, will get points.
Great man.
Is he a great man? Let's save that for another time. But you just can't. I mean, you saw this. You owned Bruno for more than a month, and it compromised your budget to a degree. I mean, you feel like you missed out on some players because you had Bruno. Not that I need to rake you over the coals here, but
sure, yeah. I basically went Bruno over Saka, and it's cost me about 50 points.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he's worth the money at the end of the day. I mean, I think if you're in a position in a mini league where you've got to make up 50 points, Bruno's probably an interesting one to go for and think about captaining him in a double game week. But beyond that, no. Like if you're trying to hold rank, no, stay away.
Yeah. I don't feel hugely, and also it's just like like you said before. It's just they're not like the engine room is not at full. Full capacity, however I stretch this metaphor out, right? But they're just not. They're not all clicking right now in terms of who's actually getting the ball to the attacking players, and I think that's the other part of it. I think that Anthony, whatever, he's worth a. If you wanted to just go for like kind of a real wild, more affordable punt, I actually don't hate it. Don't shoot the messenger, Brandon. That's just
you don't make the rules.
I don't make the rules exactly. I mean, his price.
Anthony
what
does.
does he cost? He does. He's at 7.3. So I mean, what's funny is, of course, he's actually more expensive than Marcus Rashford, which is just kind of funny.
So you would rather have Anthony than Anthony Martial?
Of course. Mm-hmm. Martial stinks. I hate Martial.
Okay, good.
I want nothing to do with Martial ever.
I goaded you into that one. Yeah. That's my fault.
You did. I know you did. You know how I feel about Anthony Martial. Do not like. All right. So on that upbeat note, let's I'm looking forward to. I think it's tricky. I think. I'm on the fence enough about what to do with some of my transfers that I actually may hold mine just like you. And the one move that I would consider is if I just decide, nope, can't trust Liverpool, don't want it, don't want no part of it. I would probably lean towards a Gakpo to Grealish move in this week. I would probably prioritize Grealish over Rashford. And then, of course, I would have Rashford for 34, not only because they have the double, but also just because there's it doesn't feel very safe to me to go into 34 without having Rashford in your squad. It feels like that could be very dangerous. So the appeal of doing that too is if I drop Gakpo, that does free up a defender spot for a Liverpool player. If I decide that I want to double up there, Konate has been getting starts. You could maybe, I don't know. I mean, at some point he's probably the one who might get rotated. So anyway, I think
he was pretty bad against Forest.
Yeah.
I thought.
Another reason to wait though, right? If he does get rotated at midweek, then good. Now we kind of know where he probably does slot right back in though, right? Yeah. I don't think that I think he's still. They still want him to be the future, right? The future center back.
Yeah, the Klopp can't just keep continually chopping and changing, thinking he knows what he's doing. So players can have bad games. Just look at Anthony.
Just look at Anthony. Just look at Anthony Martial. Both of them, all the Anthonys. All right, so that's where we are. Thanks to everyone for listening. Hope you get this podcast in before the game week kicks off. And I think we just crossed an over, Brendan. Just like you said, a 30-minute pod turned into 60. But
how do they do it?
Clean 60. A clean and focused 60. So once again, if you want to support the podcast, talk to us on the Discord. Bemoan a really terrible game week with me if you were there as well. You're probably not listening, honestly. When I have a really bad game week, it's hard for me to consume FPL content. So if you are listening, I appreciate it. You can go to patreon.com/FPL patreon.com/alwayscheating. Congrats everyone who did well this week, but what do I care about that, Brandon?
Great week for free hitters. Yeah, congrats, free hitters.
Exactly. But go to patreon.com/alwayscheating to support the podcast and say thank you. Brandon, do you want to thank our producer patrons?
Indeed. Thanks to producers Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, our buddy Chris Howell, Babas Kuhn, James Holland, Dave Wegner, Lodahl, Nick Wright, Lazarus Llanos, Jesse Halstead, Bruce Kerr, Brian Chin, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock. Thanks for the email, Andy. Dan Parsons at FPL Merch, Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, Buffalo Wildmings, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Caleb Robbie, Volker Paulson Kruger, Alex Holcomb, James Keatley, The Saint, Bob Fox, Craig Jackson, Thomas Andre, Charlene F. Kadakia, Terrence O'Donnell, Paul Hertzig, Heath Cram, Thomas Tislov, and Noah and Louise. Rate, review, and subscribe to Always Cheating wherever you get great podcasts. I'm aware of some bad podcasts as well, and sometimes they show up in searches, so that's fine. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Hail Cheaters. We have a blue check mark. Respect us. Give us some respect.
Hey, listen, I don't want to get into it, okay?
Let's not do it. Not here.
No, I'm just going to, well, listen, I didn't get one this weekend, okay? It was suddenly, now it's like a scarlet letter. I got it 3 months ago, and followers were sifting through. I had one of those,
we're trying to run a business
calendar,
here.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to run a business here. That's exactly right.
All right.
Would never do it for my personal account.
For all that information and more, please visit us at alwayscheating.com. Great chatting with you, Josh. I know you'll do better in the coming game weeks, and we'll talk to you soon.
So, all right. Likewise, Brandon. Talk to you soon. Bye.